Hey buddy, welcome to the channel. I'm David on Earth, and today we're going to be reviewing my recent section hike of the Arizona Trail, so stick around. Okay, so these videos are kind of helpful because we can learn from each other, right? So the things I did well, the things maybe I should have done a little bit better, maybe you can learn from that. So that's why I do these kind of things. Alright, so let me start off with a positive note, the meal and food planning. Alright, I think I did pretty good here. Now I know for the first week or so that I'm out on a hike, I'm just not very hungry, and therefore bringing a bunch of extra food is just, a lot more weight that you don't need to carry around. So knowing that, I didn't bring a lot of extra food. I think this is the case with most long distance hikers, right? Hiker hunger doesn't really set in until about the time you get your trail legs, which for most people I've noticed is when you are consistently putting out 20 plus miles per day, and it's a period of time after you started burning much more than what you're consuming as your body moves more into this ketosis kind of state. And then your body begins to crave more and more food, especially carbs. For most people, it's at least a couple weeks into the hike, and for maybe some others, it might take a month or more to get that hiker hunger, and that's when you really need to bring a lot more food to keep you satisfied. So I didn't get all crazy with packing a bunch of food that I wouldn't eat. In fact, on the first couple days of my hike, I had a hard time finishing my evening meal. It was probably because of the mild exhaustion. Okay, the second point I want to talk about is zeros and Neros, right? This was supposed to be about a 200-mile trek, about 2 weeks. I thought I wouldn't need to take a Nero or a zero in any town along the way. Yeah, it's a bit of a push, but not unreasonable, I don't think. The plan was to spend a little more time at Roosevelt Lake, and that's a little less than halfway through the hike. And I was going to use that time to pick up my resupply package and maybe get a meal at the marina restaurant and maybe kick back a little bit for, 2 or 3 hours. I had no plans to hitch to a nearby town to stay at a hotel or hostel. I just figured a couple-hour break and then move on. That was the plan. Well, by the time I got to Roosevelt, a few things. My feet could have used some time off. It was a very rocky and rough trail. Some hikers even mentioned that it was rugged. And that's kind of a fair assessment of the terrain along that portion of the trail. So my feet could have used a little bit of a break. Also, my clothes got more grubby than I anticipated. Between the sweat on the hot days and the dirt blowing around from all the wind, I could have used a shower. And it would have been nice to launder my clothes a little bit. Not critical, but maybe good for the uplifting of the spirits kind of a thing. Also mentally, a little downtime would have been nice. That became obvious when I was so quick to ask for a ride back to my Jeep from Roosevelt to Kearney. I surprised myself a little bit there, but it's a stark reminder about how the trail can beat you up mentally. Now I suppose there were other ways I could have played this, like finding a ride into a nearby town near Roosevelt to take a day off. But for better or worse, I was just done. Now on future hikes like this, I think at least one Nero or a zero maybe every week or so on the trail would be beneficial for me physically and mentally. Even if I'm feeling good, sometimes we don't know we need a little break, and it can help a lot. And scheduling those breaks gives us something to look forward to. It can drive us on. It can be motivational, something to refresh and refuel me to continue with the rest of the trip. So I'll put this plan into action when I do my Tahoe Rim Trail later this year. It's about the same distance. Alright, so the third thing I want to talk about here is that I pushed myself too hard too early. Now that wasn't the first time I've done that kind of thing. Each time I justify it with some special circumstances, there was no other better choices kind of talk, right? So maybe it's time for me to take a look at this a little harder. The reason I started this trail, putting in 18, 20-mile days right away, was the water situation. Now the water indeed is a big part of daily logistics out on the Arizona Trail in the desert. This kind of hard pushing early in my hike probably contributed to my early exit after 5 days. But in hindsight, maybe there was a more creative way to deal with this. I could have cached water along the way, or asked some trail angels to help us with some of that. And that would have allowed me to hike shorter distances for those first few days. Or maybe I could have carried more water to allow me to camp between these water sources. But it seems like that's a choice between heavy and short days that take longer to complete the section of the hike, or heavier, longer days that take less time to complete the hike. So I don't know which one is harder on the body, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of great choices there. But the point is that I could have given this a little more thought and planning before heading out. Maybe there were opportunities to mix it up a bit. Now, I know many people don't fret as much about water as I do. Some will suffer through an occasional dehydrated day, and if you can do that, great. But my repeated bouts with dehydration on the Colorado Trail in 2018 directly contributed to some organ damage that led to gallbladder surgery after that hike. So I'm going to take a little extra precautions with water, probably more than what most people would. So the next time I'll put in more planning to figure out how I can not push as hard, especially early on in the trail. Okay, so let's talk about the weather, right? I didn't plan very well for what the weather ended up being. Now, I looked at the weather forecast before I left, and I brought the right gear for that, right? The highs were supposed to be in the 70s and 80s and the low in the 50s. So what I brought, I think, was appropriate for that prediction. But I know better, especially springtime in Arizona. And now, a couple years ago, I was caught in an unexpected blizzard on the top of Mica Mountain. This stuff happens in the shoulder seasons, right? So I knew better. But I didn't bring the extra insulation to cover me for those kinds of off-forecast conditions. It got hot, and I was ready for that. It got cold, and I wasn't as well set up for that. I survived, right? No big deal in the end. But it would have made things much more comfortable, and my mental state could have been in a better situation if I had planned for a little bit colder weather. So the bottom line here is that I was being stingy with my pack weight and thinking I could get by with a little bit less. In some cases that works out, but not so much in this case. Okay, so what about gear choices? Other than not being prepared as I could have been for colder weather, my gear was kind of spot on. With one exception, I used everything that I brought. The only thing I didn't use was my knee compression sleeve. But I'm kind of happy to bring that anyway, even if I didn't use it. Now, it was just a few ounces, so no big deal. And having experienced knee pain in the past, really was an IT band issue. That situation terminated my hike and caused a multi-year recovery period in the past. So I'm okay with carrying a few extra ounces to prevent that kind of thing. Now, I'm sure some of you noticed that I was carrying a solar paddle. Well, I'm glad I brought it. It worked out great out there because I had a lot of exposure every day. It was just a couple ounces more than bringing another big battery, and I had forever power. Now that thing gives me great peace of mind to shoot as much as I want to with my camera, to use my phone any way I want to, and to keep my GPS tracker on all day. The peace of mind it brings is well worth the extra few ounces to me. Okay, so I brought my larger tripod. I always hesitate about bringing that because it's, a little bit under a pound. But there were a few shots that made the carry worth it to me. Now, if you're not a camera person, you may not understand this, but for those who are, you know the value of having the right gear to get the perfect shot. And that's kind of what this was. I know some people who have converted their trekking poles into tripods. I tried that in the past, and it didn't really work great for me. Now, if your trekking pole mod works for you, great. Now, I like my tripod in this situation where it's a little bit of a shorter hike, and it's kind of worth the carry. Okay, number 6 on my list today is a question. Will I be back to hike more of the AZT? I've been off trail now for a couple weeks, and I had some time for all of this to settle in about what happened out there and why, and do I want to go back? Just kind of resurfacing the question. The answer is that my decision to not continue on the AZT really hasn't changed, at least not yet. With the exception of the Grand Canyon, I've really seen just about all that Arizona has for me. or that I want to see. I've been in the low desert. I've been in the sky islands way up on the mountains. I've had great vista views. Arizona has challenged me and given me great memories. I'm content, I'm full, I'm grateful. So no regrets. But it's time, at least for now, to find another early spring adventure for me. And speaking of being grateful, thank you. I want to thank the trail angels I've met along the way, these past 4 section hikes that I've done. The kindness of strangers, the selfless acts are a great testament to my hope in humanity. Right? I don't see that so much when I'm off trail. These people make a huge difference in the experience of doing something like this. So if I met you on the trail, if you helped me out, thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, the trail builders and maintainers, the Arizona Trail Association. Now, I volunteered to help maintain the Colorado Trail, and I got to know a little bit about what it takes to maintain a trail like this. And I got to tell you, it's hard work. By those who are organizing everything, to the volunteers doing the work on the trail. So, hats off to all of you. Awesome work on the trail. Very much appreciate you. Okay, I have a special announcement. A new short film of the past 4 section hikes will be coming out soon. I'll be using some new and better video production software to do that, which I'm geeking out a little bit about right now. I had one software company approach me to help out with all that, which I'm really excited about, and I'm super grateful. So more about all that coming soon. Stand by. Okay, questions or comments? Do you have any questions for me? Any comments about your experience on the AZT? I know everyone has a different experience, and some of you have a lot of questions maybe that I didn't answer. I'd love to hear from you, so please comment down below. Let's get a conversation going. And as always, go live. I mean, really live like you want it. Alright, I'll see you on the trail. Hey, this is David on Earth. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below. And go to the website for some deals on gear. Alright, see you on the trail.